Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo. On the show this week, it's knives at the ready and horsey rides because Assassin's Creed 2 is here. Plus, you may soon be stabbing frantically at your screen as we attempt to hit the high notes with the latest Singstar and We's You Sing.
Do you really wanna make me cry?
We take a look at the portable port of LittleBigPlanet, and we meet another Aussie gaming champion. This time he's the king of the classic arcade game Galaga.
But first, can you guess the game for this week? News time, Hex. Take your space pants and go.
Space pants away!
I want space pants.
Good game.
Blu-ray player, media center, and occasionally gaming platform, the PS3 can now claim an additional function, hunting down pedophiles. The rise of the internet has seen child pornography more widely available to those who want to look for it. It's also made digital encryption more freely available, compounding the issue for law enforcement agencies as they're faced with no way of opening encrypted files they believe to be suspicious. In America, the Fifth Amendment effectively prohibits agencies from forcing suspects to reveal their passwords. To get around this, the FBI has apparently set up a cluster of 20 PS3s to produce a supercomputer. It can perform 4 million brute force attacks per second on encrypted files. With this much processing power behind them, the FBI's cyber enforcement team can crack a single password in as little as 2 years. South Australian Attorney General Michael Atkinson is drawing the ire of video gamers by saying he is baffled and worried about why proponents of R18+ games are asking for more cruel sex and extreme violence.
Oh, I didn't even hit that!
In his letter, he talks about the Wii, saying that the system provides many games to challenge and develop skill, physically and intellectually, without depraved sex, gore and cruelty. Gamers for Croydon, who intend to stand against Atkinson in the next state elections, wrote a rebuttal pointing out that the studies Atkinson quoted also found that 90% of people are in favour of R18+ classification.
Good game.
It's been a year since Sackboy first arrived in the visually stunning PlayStation exclusive LittleBigPlanet, and now he's making the jump from the big console to the little handheld.
Just like his older sibling, you'll send the mega cute Sackboy jumping and clinging his way through a variety of levels, starting in Australia no less. There are nice 3D backdrops and everything is pleasing to the eye and ears, and the mechanics of the game sat well with the handheld controls.
The PS3 version has 3 2D planes that you work on, and on the PSP there's only 2, but I didn't really miss it. In fact, I found these levels more fun to play. This isn't a port, it's all new material, and it's handled by a new developer working alongside Media Molecule. And Hex, I think they've done a really good job here. There's some really exciting moments, such as when dragons and other creatures chase you, and I don't remember the original game stressing me out this much, and that's a good thing.
It's not overly long, but if you want to collect every sticker and bubble along the way, you'll really extend your playtime. The level editor was a major feature of the first game, and it's a big part of this game too. It works fine, but Badge, I still found it so hard to make anything worthwhile.
Designing a level isn't easy. It takes ages, and then at the end of it, it's usually still a piece of poo. But based on the previous experience with the PS3 version, you can rely on the community somewhat to come up with some good stuff and filter through the rubbish. We couldn't test this out with our online code, unfortunately. Give it a go though. The game levels show you what to do and teaches you how to use the level editor, so take inspiration from that.
My only real niggle, Barjo, is that surprisingly, even though the controls felt more responsive on the PSP, it was still kind of fiddly jumping from background to foreground. Sackboy will often pick the safest place to jump, and the game does this to help you get through the platforming, but I don't know, I still found those moments where he still just wouldn't do what I wanted him to.
Yeah, that's what most people didn't like about the PS3 version, and I guess it's kind of unavoidable when you've got so many moving parts in a game like this. But I only rage quit once, and you can't really rage quit on the PSP, you kind of have to rage sleep mode, and it's slightly less dramatic. I did miss playing with friends, Hex, but this is a completely solo experience, and that highlights the flaws of the game just that little bit more. It's a penalty for taking it on the road. You have to do it alone. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I'm glad to see the world music made it into this version, but this franchise really puts a lot of its eggs into the user-generated content basket. To get good play length out of this game, you're going to have to either download or build your own levels, but I really hope the community gets behind it. I'm giving it an 8.
Good game.
After all those selfless quests to rescue princesses and save the Earth from utter annihilation, it was a breath of fresh air, or should we say an exhalation of some putrid gaseous substance, when games finally let us play the baddie.
We don't just mean making the most of asshole physics or choosing the snarky response in a dialogue tree.
That sound makes me want to kill somebody.
We're talking about those games in which playing the villain is the be-all and end-all. One of the first games that let players indulge in their evil tendencies was the 1994 space combat sim Star Wars TIE Fighter for PC. As a rookie Imperial pilot executing the orders of Emperor Prune-Faced Palpatine, the player had to pilot a variety of TIE craft, engage in dogfights with rebel scum, lay traps for a calamari cruiser or two, and count out his shadowy superiors. Forget about any kind of path of redemption to the light side of the Force. TIE Fighter's story was so cleverly scripted that you actually sympathised with the Empire's efforts to cleanse the galaxy of idealistic troublemakers.
Those Rebel Alliance pansies had it coming to them. In 1997, Peter Molyneux's Dungeon Keeper gave gamers a chance to sit back and plot the demise of those annoying gold-thieving adventuring parties by constructing the deadliest dungeons imaginable. Much like Molyneux's later Black and White, the player interacted with the world using a disembodied hand, dragging and dropping imp sentries into action and slapping prisoners held captive in your torture chambers. Part real-time strategy, part world building, Dungeon Keeper's sinister sense of humour made hacking up heroes a guilt-free pleasure.
A spiritual successor of sorts to Dungeon Keeper was 2004's Evil Genius from the now defunct Elixir Studios. Continuing the theme of playing as a twisted mastermind holed up in an underground lair, the game's camp 60s spy setting paid tribute to classic Bond villains.
This was another strategic game of base building, the aim being to stop a series of sneaky secret agents from reaching the inner sanctum of your headquarters. Nothing a little torture couldn't fix. Evil Genius wasn't exactly the greatest game ever made, but it did give gamers a chance to cackle maniacally.
Yes, well, enough of this emotionally detached manipulation from on high badge. What about getting to unleash your fury firsthand?
Now you're talking.
Overlord put players in the pointy armoured get-up of an undead overlord. With a sweep of an analogue stick, you could direct your cackling goblin horde to tear apart towns and ransack palaces with an occasional overhead slice from your very own Axe of Doom.
The recently released Overlord 2 follows in the same footsteps, letting you squander your mounds of treasure on vanity upgrades to your netherworld fortress and generally enjoy the delights of wreaking havoc.
There actually aren't that many games that allow you to focus purely on getting your kicks from villainous actions, although the choice to be good or evil does seem to be pretty common in many character-driven games these days.
Even a game like The Sims 3 lets you explore the nasty side of human nature with evil character traits, while games like Fable, Infamous, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic all leave it up to you how morally corrupt you're willing to become.
D&D-style RPGs have let players choose an evil alignment during character creation for years, though the resulting effect is sometimes only a matter of getting access to a different skill set instead of anything deeper or darker.
And with the arrival of Dragon Age Origins giving us the option to at least explore our hearts of darkness, we're reminded once again how sometimes it's good to be bad.
Ow! Whatever I said, whatever I did, I didn't mean it.
I just want you back for good.
She wants you back.
Want you back. You want you back for good.
Take you back to the store for good.
I won.
I don't care that I lost to singing Take That.
You put no effort into that.
It deserves no effort.
Get on with it.
There are some things in super happy video game land that are about as sure as the sun coming up. One is, if a game is successful, it'll get a sequel. The other, if a game is successful, it'll get copied.
Singstar is the original home karaoke game, and it's still the best. With over 20 editions so far, it's not so much sequels as adding to the herd. And just in time for the silly season, there's two more, Motown and Take That.
Look at them! They've got the mechanics of the game down perfectly. You can solo, duet, battle, and pass the mic, and so on. You can replay your efforts and add some pretty stupid effects.
Motown disc has 30 classics from the Detroit-based record label that's now celebrating its 50-year anniversary and is credited with breaking down racial divides and launching the careers of black artists like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, and the Jackson 5, among others.
Easy as 1, 2, 3. As simple as do, re, mi, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, baby, you and me, girl.
So if you like Singstar and that sound, this one's a no-brainer.
The Take That offering is utterly dependent on whether you have a love or hate relationship with the UK boy band from the 90s. If it's love, you'll find 25 songs spanning the early and post-Robbie comeback years, including all the hits, except for the Bee Gees' cover of How Deep Is Your Love, presumably for licensing reasons. It's a shame that Bee Gees' cover of How Deep Is Your Love isn't in there, though.
Oh, it's such a shame. I'd totally be into it if that wasn't there.
One thing I wish we could do, though, Barjo, is rip all of the Singstar songs from all of the discs onto the hard drive so we didn't have to keep swapping them all the time.
You can push select in one of the menus and then swap the discs like that, so at least you don't have to reboot the PS3.
Fixing this is the next big advance in the series, in my opinion.
Well, I'm a fan of Motown, so I dug that. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens, but I'd rather suck down a bucket of cold sick than sing along to Take That, so I'm giving that 4 out of 10 only because the game works. That's how deep my love is.
Harsh, Barjo. I mean, I had a bit of a Take That thing in my younger days, so I enjoyed harmonising with Robbie, Gary and the lads. It's an 8 from me, and the Motown hit a chord with everyone at my place as well, so I'm giving it an 8 too.
Now on to You Sing, the Singstar clone for the Wii. It's got 30 songs from artists signed to Universal Music, from Lady Gaga to Coldplay to the Mamas and Papas, and it's quite a good selection.
California
Unlike Microsoft's cloning effort Lips, which at least made an attempt to introduce some original features to the game, You Sing just copies Singstar's formula right down to the lines that you have to fill up and that cheesy rating on your performance at the end.
Sadly, the Wii hardware really lets this down. The clips all look grainy, and on our setup there was lag between what we sing and what actually comes out of the TV, and they can get very off-putting, and you have to use a rubbish USB mic.
Obviously, Badge, we're in the extremely fortunate position of having access to any console, so for us it's a no-brainer to choose Singstar. But if a Wii's all you've got and you're after a good karaoke game, given the song list is good, I'm giving it 6.5 rubber chickens. It's still good fun.
Yeah, I'm giving it 6 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
It's time for another of Australia's greatest gamers, and Barjo, this week's gamer is particularly great.
That's right. Not only has our newest gaming champion mastered one of the most popular and classic arcade games, but he's also the best in the world at playing it.
Yeah, my name's Phil Day. I just passed the highest score in the world on the Galaga tournament. I first played Galaga in 1981, I think. That's when it came out. I think what attracted me to Galaga was just its basic simplicity, and also it was a fairly aggressive game. There is that sort of Galaga stance that people get, they're sort of a bit stooped down or they're a bit bent over the machine and bashing the buttons, and I just enjoyed smacking that machine around as a kid. I think the reason I went for the world record on Galaga was partly I thought it was achievable, and I just thought it'd be a lot of fun to have a go at it. As I started playing and going for it, I started to employ other strategies to try and assure myself a chance of getting that score. So there were parts of it I took quite seriously. Mostly it was fun. If it wasn't enjoyable, I think I would have gave it up a long time ago. When I got the machine, I decided to keep a logbook of all my high scores and any sort of strategies I might come across. So I kept them all in this and just jotted them all down with photographs of scores and dates. There's a few exciting things for me. One is when I eventually got the second high score, which was what I was really aiming for. I didn't think I'd ever get the world record. Put a nice big 1.8 million photograph in there. And it's funny with my folks, I mean, they've been supportive my whole life, but I was amazed even they, like my father hates video games. Because he saw this as competitive, even he sort of was supportive. When I got the second high score, he and my mother sent me this totally, completely, absolutely wowed card, it says, well done second, now to be number one, mum and dad. On that night I got that world record score, I'd played a game earlier that afternoon, and I'd managed to put, I think it was about 1.2 million points on my first man, and then after that the whole game fell apart. And then I went out to dinner with some friends, and I came home and I was just fully awake, and I just thought, I'll have a go on Galaga. And I think because I was going into having this game quite late at night, I thought, I'll just have a bit of a practice run. When I progressed through the game and I still had only lost a man, it was 2 million points, so this is going well. And when I got to 2.2 million, it was roughly around there, I thought, I think this is mine. I really thought I was going to, manage to pass that 2.7 quite comfortably. And then it wasn't long into that I thought, I'm going to get 4 million because it was going so well. But the weird thing was that, and I didn't know that Galaga did this, at stage 256, it clocks, it goes back to stage 0, and it all slows down, it goes back to the beginning again. And that's what got me out, the slower ones. I just didn't adjust quick enough, and that was that. But I'm not complaining. Getting the world record, yeah, it feels good. You know, it's a fun project, and if anyone's got some skills in a video game, and if it's not taking up too much time, I'd say go for it. I'm glad I did it. So it's been a month since I sent in my score, and a lot's happened since then. Twin Galaxies have rejected my score. I've been disqualified under technical error. The problem with the high score video in their terms was that when you record a score, it has to be on 640 by 480 pixels, and mine was on 320 by 240, so it was half. All my other previous scores have been done the same way, but they didn't realise this until this last one came in because it was a world record score. So after that, I was ready to give up. I just didn't feel like going back in and trying to get that score again, and just felt tired from it and a bit, well, not angry, just really flat. And then friends and that talked me back into it, and then I just had to start from scratch, and I got a lot of low scores again. And then about a week later, I managed to get that 3 million mark again. I've sent my score off. I sent it from Sydney, and I sent an International Express, and it's 1,000 by 1,000. I don't know, some ridiculous number of pixels. If they reject it this time, I'm definitely out. I'm not playing again, but they won't reject it this time. I definitely think I've got the world record this time. I mean, I thought I had it last time, but now I definitely think I've got it.
All I know is I need to get out of here, and I need to do it soon. My name is Desmond Miles, and this is my story.
It's been 2 years since we saw our stealthy, stab-happy assassin Altair frolic on rooftops, and now Assassin's Creed is back with a weighty sequel and an all-new set of tricks up its sleeve.
That's right, this time the Animus takes you to Renaissance Italy, where you play as Ezio.
And what shall we call him, my love?
Ezio. Ezio Auditore da Firenze.
A suave Italian dude with a fancy cape and all the right moves with the ladies.
Yes, he's definitely smooth.
Oh, Ezio.
If you missed the first one, Assassin's Creed is an action-adventure where you plan assassinations against foes and conspirators and do a bunch of side missions as well.
Like, you and I were both big fans of the first game. The concept is well thought out, and we love stabbing our way to a stealthy victory. And Altair is such a cool character to play. But no amount of fangirling or fanboying could prevent us from acknowledging that the game certainly had its faults.
Well, the lead developer was in town recently, so we put those very questions to him.
Some parts were a little bit repetitive, and we knew it. We just decided to ship the game on time. Instead of spending more time to develop, just decide, okay, that's it, that will be good enough. And then 9 million copies sold afterward. I mean, it wasn't that bad. And we received 5 out of 10, and I'm sorry it wasn't a 5 out of 10.
Well, it's great they've listened because they've improved on just about everything that was wrong with the first game. The format is still the same. You'll walk around town and go to viewpoints to unlock different areas of the map. But this time, it's a whole new playground. There's a plethora of missions for you to work your way through, from assassinations, jumping puzzles, wagon races and carnival games, to helping out your friendly neighborhood courtesans.
Hiding spots are still a little obvious, but to be honest, I didn't even really use them much this time. Maybe later on in the game when things got a bit hectic and you had half a city of guards chasing you, but for the most part, I found it was easier just to do the deed, get down with your bad self, and then get the hell out of there. Putting enough distance between you and the guards makes for more fun rooftop climbing and less hiding in a stupid tent.
And they're a lot smarter now too, the guards. They'll actually look for you, so it makes that bale of hay a less appealing option. Other notable improvements, Ezio can pick the pockets of just about anyone, which is a great way to build up cash. He also has a whole new array of weapons at his disposal, including 2 assassination blades for double assassinations. Awesome. a stealth pistol, and a poison needle. Poison is administered undetected and will make the guard wig out and attack anyone unlucky enough to be standing near before dying a slow, painful, horrible death.
All of these weapons are so cool. You really get a sense of the assassination tools evolving with the time. It makes the first game seem rudimentary in comparison. A cool way they've worked these gadgets into the storyline is with the help of Leonardo da Vinci. Here's Patrice again talking about including such a famous historical character in the game.
His best friend is Leonardo da Vinci, you know, and Leonardo is a bit his helper, is the one doing all the gadgets for him, but they have a really good relationship. And Leonardo is not the old man that we used to see, you know, the old man with the white beard. He's like 25. You know, we tend to forget that those men from the past were sometimes young. So Leo is a guy who's like, say, he's Leo. He's not Leonardo da Vinci. It's just Leo. So he's having fun. He's like joking around, but he's also really a good, really an intelligent man, and he will do, a hidden gun to Ezio, for example.
He's Renaissance Italy's version of a James Bond Q character, and you get excited every time you go and see him because you know he's going to give you some new present to help you kill people in a new and different way.
Incredible. Yes, it is.
I found the whole plot of this game way more involving too, Badge. They really worked hard to create these boisterous, stereotypical Italian characters with all the bravado and personality woven into not just the voice acting,
Ma che ti piglia?
You insult my sister.
but the fighting style as well. It's all swirling capes and big hand gestures and taunts.
I need help!
But solid characters and plot make such a difference, you know, because I cared about Ezio and I cared about the people that were important to him.
You know what I care about? Being able to hack and slash whoever I choose. There's nothing more frustrating than those pesky minstrels coming up and start serenading you in the middle of a damned important assassination mission, and I don't see why a few stabs to the gut isn't a reasonable punishment.
Wondrous deeds he has performed for the good of all.
But whenever I do, I get this warning message saying the real Ezio wouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, but my Ezio stabs people that gets in his way.
Yeah, I got that message a few times too, but only because you get so into the swing of being such a stab-happy guy that you occasionally make a mistake. There was one mission where I had to go up and collect ribbons from ladies, and instead of picking their pockets, I'd accidentally hit the wrong button and knife a few chicks in the face. Oops.
That was a bit harsh.
It was 4 AM, man. I was tired.
Well, in group combat, your hidden blades actually can work as well as normal weapons, but if you're coming up against someone who's got a bit of armor, then you really want to switch to a hammer or a heavy-duty axe, and that's equally as satisfying when it comes to skull cleaving.
Combat relies heavily on counterattacks, but this time you have the added ability to disarm an opponent and take their weapon from them. You can dive right into combat if you like that sort of thing, but the real joy in Assassin's Creed comes from planning your approach to group attacks. Ezio's a real rogue character now, and you have the ability to use your stealth weapons when taking out groups of guards rather than just saving them for your main assassination targets.
It was a bit weird how they did the blending this time around, though. Whereas Altair would blend in with monks, here Ezio can just walk up to a group of 5 people and instantly become invisible. He's magic.
Even when it was a crowd of hookers. Like, I'm sorry, but Ezio cuts a pretty badass figure. I just find it really hard to believe that when stepping into a crowd of 5 people, an investigating guard would just be like, where did he go?
You can also hire thugs, thieves, and ladies of the night to fight or distract guards for you, and they can also be used as a renter crowd to help you move when you need a bit of moving cover.
That was definitely handy, and you use this often.
Graphically, the game looks good for the most part, but it's a real shame they skimped on the detail when you play as Desmond outside the Animus. I know it's not the focus of the game or anything, but it was noticeably bad.
But right now, I need you to just shut up and do what I say. So please, get in the Animus.
Kristen Bell makes for such great voice acting, so it was a shame that her face was so creepy to look at.
Speaking of creepy things to look at, it's amusing glitch time! Oh! Well, Hex, let's wrap it up.
I've been waiting for this game for a long time. I loved playing as Ezio, and Renaissance Italy made for a stunning backdrop. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's good that they've kept that core mechanic there, which is all about freedom and movement, and it's just a joy playing in this world. My only real complaint is that those post-assassination cutscenes are still there and they're still tedious, but it's a very small complaint in an otherwise brilliant game. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
And you can find the full interview with Patrice on our website.
Good game.
So, did you guess the game for this week?
It looks pretty similar, but if you said it was Galaga, you answered wrong because it's actually Galaxian.
Galaxian is the official predecessor to Galaga, and when it debuted in arcades all the way back in 1979, it featured much of the same pew-pew action that made Namco's series of shoot-em-ups so famous.
Galaxian is still considered a classic in its own right, even if it was overshadowed just a few years later by its inevitable successor.
Well, that's it for this week.
We'll be back in 3 weeks' time with a 1-hour-long Christmas special.
Yes, all the new games, lots of festive cheer, and the annual Good Game Award. So, hit up the site and post your vote for the best and worst games of 2009, amongst others.
Until next time, gamers, Hex out.
Barjo out. Did you hear Peanuts was going to steal Christmas?
No.